is Noelle Dunphy, whose lawyer will join us in a moment. She has filed a lawsuit against Rudy Giuliani, accusing him of extreme violations of labor law and sexual harassment law and laws against sexual assault. But the lawsuit, this lawsuit right here, also quotes Rudolph Giuliani claiming that he was selling pardons for $2 million with the money to be split between himself and the issuer of the pardons, Donald Trump. That is by far the most serious evidence of federal crimes included in this lawsuit. The lawsuit also quotes Rudolph Giuliani telling Noelle Dunphy to commit the crime of lying to the FBI. That is also evidence of Rudy Giuliani committing another federal crime. And there is a third federal and state crime described in the lawsuit when Rudolph Giuliani is quoted describing how he collected $1 million owed to him without reporting it as income so that his wife would not be able to get any of that money in his then pending divorce proceedings. That is federal income tax evasion, which carries a 5-year prison term, and state income tax evasion. And so there are 4 major crimes identified in this lawsuit that are worthy of federal investigation. 3 of those possible federal crimes described as committed by Rudolph Giuliani, and a 4th describes Rudolph Giuliani and Donald Trump co-conspiring to commit the federal crime of extortion. $2 million for a Trump pardon. The problem, the big problem, for Rudolph Giuliani and his written blanket denial of everything in this 69-page lawsuit filed in Manhattan today is the sentence, "This conversation was recorded," which appears repeatedly throughout this document. The conversation about splitting bribe money, extortion money with Donald Trump was not recorded. It appears on page 26 of the lawsuit complaint, just above the passage that shows an actual text message from Rudolph Giuliani to Noelle Dunphy asking, "Can I shower with you?"
This is the pink salt recipe that took me from 198 to 147 in just weeks. And the best part, it's natural, simple, has 0 side effects, and takes less than a minute to make. No $2,000 injections needed. Just
perfectly normal question for boss Rudy Giuliani, one of his employees. At the top of that same page, the complaint says he also asked Ms. Dunphy if she knew anyone in need of a pardon, telling her that he was selling pardons for $2 million, which he and President Trump would split. He told Ms. Dunphy that she could refer individuals seeking pardons to him so long as they did not go through the normal channels of the Office of Pardon Attorney, because correspondence going to that office would be subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. A footnote, just a footnote on page 39 says he told her that if the FBI sought to interview her, she should not remember anything and should claim that she did not know Giuliani. Ms. Dunphy refused to agree to lie to the FBI, which angered Giuliani. If Rudy Giuliani did say that, that is a federal crime. There is no indication that that conversation was recorded. As for the tax crime alleged in this lawsuit, it appears that defendant Giuliani has a very big problem. On page 22 of the complaint, it says Giuliani told Ms. Dunphy that someone owed him $1 million, but Giuliani hinted that instead of having the money paid to him, he had his friend, Robert Strick, hold it for him. He said, "Robert Strick just got me $1 million payment." This statement was recorded. If that statement was recorded and does include Rudolph Giuliani describing how he is obtaining $1 million without declaring it as income so that he can hide it from his wife in a divorce proceeding, Rudolph Giuliani could face a federal prison term of 5 years for federal tax evasion. That recorded statement could put Rudolph Giuliani in federal prison for the rest of his life. Donald Trump and Rudolph Giuliani are a two-headed monster. Donald Trump is the kind of person who has people like Rudolph Giuliani around him. He was the only president in history who would ever allow Rudolph Giuliani into the White House to give him advice on anything important. Donald Trump used Rudolph Giuliani in a conspiracy to illegally overturn a presidential election. Returning Donald Trump to the presidency means returning people like Rudolph Giuliani to the White House and people like Michael Flynn, who Donald Trump said on Saturday would return to the White House with him after Michael Flynn pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI and was then pardoned by Donald Trump. We don't know what price, if any, Michael Flynn might have had to pay for that pardon, or if Rudy Giuliani was involved in selling that pardon. Here is a sampling of the recorded statements, just the recorded statements, that Rudolph Giuliani made that now appear as the basis for a lawsuit alleging sexual harassment, sexual assault, denial of wages, and other severe abuses of Noelle Dunphy. Page 12. He was later recorded telling Ms. Dunphy, "I've wanted you from the day I interviewed you." Page 26, on February 23rd, 2019, Giuliani told Ms. Dunphy that he could get in trouble with underage girls if they were 16 but looked 20. Or he could not get in trouble with underage girls if they were 16 or looked 20. This conversation was recorded. He told Ms. Dunphy, who is 43 years old, during a recorded conversation, "I need time alone with my girlfriend, with my daughter, with my little girl." This became part of a pattern in which Giuliani referenced Ms. Dunphy as his daughter in the context of sexual activity and made her extremely uncomfortable. Page 39, Giuliani told Ms. Dunphy that he was in love with 3 or 4 women. He also told her that he was attracted to a 20-year-old employee who was then more than 50 years his junior, about 58 years his junior, in fact. He told Ms. Dunphy that he had a certain sexual attraction to the 20-year-old employee, that he fantasized about her, that he kissed that 20-year-old employee on the lips but did not consummate the relationship. He said that his attraction to his 20-year-old employee was different from his attraction to Mrs. Ryan, or Ms. Dunphy, whom he said he just could not control himself around. This conversation was recorded. The name of that 20-year-old employee does appear in this civil complaint. I just didn't want to use it here on television. On page 45, on a list of statements that were recorded, he says, "I think of you as my daughter. Is that weird?" Which Giuliani said while engaging in sexual contact with Ms. Dunphy. Early in her employment with Giuliani, Ms. Dunphy traveled from her home in Florida to New York. Giuliani insisted that instead of a hotel, she stay in his guest room in his apartment. Page 15. Ms. Dunphy was frightened. She said she wanted to get dressed, unpack, and settle in. She asked for privacy. She said she would meet him in the living room when she was ready, but Giuliani would not leave. He sat on the bed and pulled down his pants. The following screenshot from the film Borat, subsequent movie film, depicts Giuliani acting in a similar manner to how he acted with Ms. Dunphy. And a screenshot from Borat actually appears in this lawsuit right in the middle of the page, this lawsuit against Rudolph Giuliani. In the movie Borat, Rudolph Giuliani went into a hotel room with an actress who was playing a 15-year-old girl. He believed she was 15 years old. He reclined on the bed, not knowing that this was an actress, not knowing that this was being filmed. He reached inside his pants. And Sacha Baron Cohen, watching this from another room, realized he was going to have to rush in there and stop Giuliani.
I never thought that he was actually going to go into the room with her.
You had no idea they would end up in the bedroom, right? Like,
I mean, I was hoping for the movie they would, but also, this as a producer and a director, I have a actress there who, I need to look after and protect as well, because we're putting her in a situation with a powerful man who may or may not have been in this situation beforehand.
it appeared as if almost we better go in now before this turns into something that is so horrible that we could never can't even put in the movie and becomes evidence in a court case.